I don't know what the number is. I've got absolutely no idea what the number is. The number of people who have carried the football in the history of West Virginia University. I've got no idea how many people have carried it once or more than once, but I do know who has gained the most yards carrying the football for West Virginia University all time, and he's our guest on this 216th episode of Three Guys Before the Game with Avon Cobourne. Three Guys Before the Game is brought to us by Burdett Camping Center, the only warranty forever provider in the state of West Virginia. The only RV warranty forever provider in the entire Mountain State. Serves Mountaineer fans from Weirton to Welch, Martinsburg to Matewan, and all points in between. For more than 40 years, Burdett Camping Center's been there, your one-stop shop for RV, parts, service, sales. Check them out on their mobile-friendly website. That's burdettcamping.com, or stop by and tell them you're a Three Guys listener.
And thank you to the people that have done that and purchased RVs.
Yeah, exactly.
Glad you're doing that.
Here's the bottom line to it all. Don't throw your money away. If you're in the RV world, Burdett Camping Center is your place with the only RV warranty forever provider. It's a corner of Route 34 and 817 in Winfield. Corner of Route 34 and 817 in Winfield. Did some research on that.
On the location?
Yeah. It's right across. I mean, basically a good driver, you put the ball in the Kanawha River.
Okay. From the lot.
Right from the lot. You could put it right in. And they got the Winfield Locks and Dam, not too far away from there.
Of course you do.
Centrally located. You come right off. It's great. It's the Burdett Camping Center. Senator is in, and so is our very, very special guest. Would you please give a Three Guys Before the Game welcome to the all-time leading rusher in West Virginia University's football history, Hall of Famer, Charleston resident via New Jersey. Please welcome Avon Cobourne. Good evening, sir. Good morning and good afternoon, wherever you may be. How are you, buddy?
I am blessed by the best, man. Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
No, the honor is ours. The honor is ours. As you well know, this is a special time of the year for us. This is the time, the off season, so to speak, that we put a list together of guys, girls that we want to have on the program so that we can spend some extra time. Once the season gets going, we're talking previewing games, reviewing games, and as you well know, it goes like super quick. And we get this time of the year, we said, let's spend some time with the special folks. Last week we had John Beeline on. Today we're focused on you. Here's a couple of thoughts I have about you. One is, as the all-time leading rusher in school history, you do not get enough attention or honor for that. I don't know why that is, but as I said at the very start of the show, when you think about the number of people that have carried the football for WVU through the years, to be the guy that's got the most yards, that's amazing.
By a lot.
Yeah, it's not like you got
not like by 3 yards.
No, he didn't get like a last draw play for 2, and he got the limit.
Like number 2 on the list isn't going back mining through game film trying to find enough yards. I mean, Avon far and away.
He'd need 700. Number 2 would need 700 to find 700 more yards in order to become number 1. Also, we love the stories behind the stories. We love the blue-collar mentality. We love guys that have overcome difficulty. You certainly fit in that category because in your senior season at Holy Cross High School in Jersey, you blew out your knee. And a blown-out knee for a running back is potentially the end of it all. As you well know, offensive linemen, they can probably come back, put the big brace on, they can come back and be functional. And I know that knees have been easier to come back from than they were even when you played, but you did that. And not only did you do it, you ended here, as I said, a prolific Mountaineer, all-time leader in rushing yards, and Hall of Famer. Oh, and then after this was all done, you go out and you play professionally
Grey Cup MVP.
MVP. So that's the equivalent of the Super Bowl MVP, the Grey Cup MVP. You're all pro in the Canadian Football League. You go on to coach. My gosh, are you tired of me just raving about you here? I'm just saying that. So no one asked me, why are you having Avon on? But those are just the thoughts that I've had in my head.
Now, will we interview him, or we just want to list his accomplishments? Because we could go for about 45 minutes.
And ladies and gentlemen, thanks for being with us for episode 216. Hope you've enjoyed the show. All right,
That's
man.
awesome.
How are you, buddy?
That's
Everything
awesome.
everything is good? Everything's good? You're healthy?
Hey,
Your family's well?
I mean, everybody's great, man. I mean, I'm a little nervous of the whole Corona thing, but I'm actually back at the office and I'm moving around, doing what I need to do. But yeah, man, getting back to it. Yeah, that was actually a pretty good intro. Actually, it was a great intro. Actually, I couldn't say it better myself. I appreciate you.
So let's begin at the beginning, and we're going to bop all over the place, but let's start at the beginning. So you play at Holy Cross High School. There is some connection between Holy Cross and Morgantown for those that don't follow this stuff really, really closely. Actually, there was, and that was a connection between Matt Toffoni, whose dad, Joe, played at WVU, and Matt played in that same time frame. So there was this connection between the two of knowing about WVU. When you look back, when was the first time that West Virginia University as a football option for you came to light?
It's funny because going back, like it was even so Coach Stephoni, Matt's dad, Joe, he was my offensive line coach, and I had no idea about football. So I mean, no idea about WVU football. And he started talking about West Virginia, and it was my sophomore year. And he was like, you might be able to play for West Virginia. I'm like, where's West Virginia? I wasn't one of those astute people that followed football the way that a lot of people do.
Mm-hmm.
I just knew Florida, Florida State, Notre Dame, and that's kind of all I really know about football. But the first time I heard about West Virginia was my sophomore year. So that was 1996, I think.
Mm-hmm.
1996. And it was just great because then Matt Toffoni was like, yeah, I went to WVU, and I'm like, and when you're young, you're like, you think you're the best thing in the world. I'm like, man, I would have ran you over, not knowing that he was a true dog. Like,
Yes, he
looking
was.
at his film, I was like, oh my goodness, this dude was a killer. Like, and I mean, he just taught me so much. He gave me so much encouragement, man. Especially when my knee got injured. It was a tough time for me. But that's when I first learned about West Virginia. Was my sophomore year in high school, and that's when I actually first went to Holy Cross, because I was at another high school, and then the quarterback that I was actually staying with was transferring high schools, and he was like, you should come. And I was like, no, I'm actually starting where I am right now. I don't want to leave what I'm doing and have to play a different position, in which I did. And they were like, you need to come. And I ended up playing receiver and fullback my sophomore year. And then the next year I had the senior left. I think they should have let us compete, because I think I would have won. I really do. They didn't let us compete. So he was a senior. So they were like, yeah, he's gonna be the guy. And I played fullback and receiver. And they were like, okay, well, this guy, he might be able to play at West Virginia. I'm like, huh? Where's West Virginia?
Wow.
And once I figured it out, I'm like, we went up there my junior year a couple of times for a couple games, and I just was hooked.
Which you had to like it. If you think about what was going on at that time, we're talking right in the Amos Zaraway heyday there. So you had to look at that offense and say, all right, I dig this. I can step right in here.
Yeah, it's so Tony called me the other day and was like, can I speak to the greatest running back in WVU history? I was like, the second, because I think Amos is like he's still my idol. Like, he's one of the best running backs I've ever seen play the game. It's Barry Sanders and then him and then me, in my mind. You know what I mean? So Yeah, I mean, yeah, when he was there, I was like, man, I want to do exactly what he's doing. And it was funny, like going back when I went up there my junior year, for a game. um, I told him, I said, man, I'm gonna break all your records up here. Not, just being a cocky young little sophomore or junior in high school,
Right.
not thinking that it would ever come, I would even be close to doing that, but it just came to fruition. Like, yeah, I'm gonna break all your records, and he was like, all right, whatever, and and then it happened. I was like, hold on, I talked about this like years before it happened, and I did it, which was awesome.
That's pretty wild. Going back to something you said when you made the move after your freshman year to Holy Cross as a sophomore, the quarterback that you were staying with went to Holy Cross and asked,
Hmm.
do you want to come? Why were you staying with him? What was your family situation like?
I mean, so that's a crazy situation in itself. So that story. So my freshman year at Cherry Hill West, which is probably, it's a middle class suburb, um, in New Jersey, and what is that, South Jersey. And so we were actually, my mom and my family, we were actually living in Cherry Hill. And then, my mom, she had like a relapse, and she we had to move out of Cherry Hill. And so we moved into a shelter for probably the first 2 semesters, um, of my freshman year in high school. So a lot of people didn't know, when I was in high school, that I would take a bus from the shelter in Camden, which is where I'm from, to Cherry Hill. So we would have to take a city bus to catch the school bus. And we couldn't take the city bus, because we'd have had to take like 3 or 4 buses to get to school. So we took the city bus to a location to where we can get dropped off or picked up from a school bus. So going through that, I was scared that they would find out that I wasn't living in Cherry Hill, because we were using my grandma's address
Hmm.
and just going back and forth. And we did that for about 2 semesters, and it was like right into the middle of football season. Um, and we they yeah, I asked, his name was Coach Mebs, Ed Mebs. And God rest her soul, the woman of the house allowed me to do that. I mean, I asked him, and he had to ask her. And I mean, I don't know if you guys know, or the listeners know, that Camden, New Jersey, I mean, it was actually on the news a couple of weeks ago about being, one of the worst cities in America. I think it was one of the first cities to actually defund the police. So this is I mean, again, I was doing some crazy things at that time. I had no parental guidance at all. Um, just going back and forth from Camden to Cherry Hill. And me and my sister, we would get on the bus every morning. It was some great stories, because one morning, um, we were getting on a city bus, and there was a bum, who had like snot coming out his nose, and it was just hanging. Like, it was the funniest thing in the world. It was like, it's just hanging. Like, what are you doing here, guy? Clean yourself up. Um, but we would go back and forth. And then, Miss Mebs, I asked Coach Mebs, I said, because he was my coach, in Pop Warner football. And he decided to, because he was coaching his son, who was a quarterback safety for the school. And they came down to a situation where it was going to be a little bit of daddy ball. And Coach Mez was like, well, no, I'm gonna get my son out of here. I mean, which was a great idea for him, because his son was phenomenal. um he decided to go to Holy Cross. But before then, he asked me to, I asked him, I said, well, can I use your address, because they're talking about, I'm not gonna be able to do that. And he was like, well, hold on, let me do something, let me talk to my wife. And she was like, hey, you're a good kid. um we would want you to come and move in with us, if that's something that you would want to do. And I'm like, really? And mind you, this is a white family. They have 2 girls, one that was older than me and one that was younger than me, and then the son I played football with. And I mean, they knew me from a year of playing football, maybe 2 years ago, when I was 14 years old.
Hmm.
Um, and they allowed me to move into their house. I mean, it was some rules that I, a couple of things I just didn't agree with, but I mean, I've moved all my life, Tony. Like from I haven't lived in a house more than 5 years my entire life, and with that, there's a lot of moving, there's a lot of adjusting, there's a lot of change, which I was good at because I've been doing it all my life. So they allowed me to move in, and it was a great experience for me because there was a lot of things that I loved about what they did. There's a lot of things that I didn't love, and being a man of not having very much structure, not very many men that was consistently in my life. Coach Mebs was that consistent person or man that was there for me.
Mm-hmm. There are so many opportunities in what you just said where you could have gone off the other direction and just become a statistic in the streets of Camden. And instead, it's a great underscore of what happens when someone watches out for you and then you going along with the plan. And look what it does and look what it did for you. That's an amazing life save right there.
Absolutely, Tony. It's one of those things. I put something on Facebook the other day. Like if I went with the status quo all my life, you wouldn't know me right now. I mean, there's nothing about me that's status quo because I'm supposed to be a statistic. I'm supposed to be. I mean, out of all of my friends, I'm the only one that went to college. Out of all of them that I know. I mean, a couple of them passed away. Pretty much every one of them served time in jail. Every one of them served time in jail except me,
All right, let's fast
which is
forward.
which is crazy.
Which it is. Let's fast forward now to senior year,
hmm
knee injury. West Virginia's still there. Who recruited you? Why West Virginia? Who else was in the mix for your services? Walk us through all of that during that time, your senior year.
So my senior year, I mean, it was crazy. At that time, I'm like, I'm gonna have 2,000 yards rushing. I'm gonna have because the year before I had 36 touchdowns. I'm like, I'm gonna have 50 touchdowns this year, 60 touchdowns this year. Second game of the season, I tear my ACL. It was terrible because at that time I'm like, I'm never gonna play again.
Was it a contact
Like,
injury or was it a placement of your foot? How did it happen?
so before the season, we were in training camp and I stepped in a hole and I hyperextended my knee, which really was a partial tear.
Uh-huh.
So I put a brace on and I just said, we're just gonna play through it. And the first game I had like 4 touchdowns. Second game I had like 2 touchdowns. And when I was actually heading to my third, and I tried to make a move on the kicker and my knee just gave out.
Mm.
So knee gave out, and you went to see a couple people and they were like, one of them said you'll never play again, and Coach Mez was like, this guy is just crazy, which was a blessing for me because when you're a kid, when somebody says that, all you can do is believe him. He's an adult. I mean, he's experiencing what he does. Coach Mez was like, this guy is crazy, don't listen to nothing he said, we're going to go to somewhere else. So
Wow.
then we went to Dr. Bartolozzi, who was the Eagles doctor
I
at the
remember that.
time.
I remember hearing that the Eagles guy was the guy that fixed you that time.
Yeah. And he was like, this is, and he gave me so much confidence. He said, this right, ACLs right now are like sprained ankles. It's going to be painful, but you can come back from it, and you'll come back even better than what you were. And I believed him. So going through that, I had Maryland, Minnesota, West Virginia, um, um, uh, Syracuse, and Pitt. Those are my options that I had.
And which
Before that,
coach from West Virginia was in on you? Kurlav?
so no, it was actually Tony Pierce.
Tony
Oh,
Pierce.
okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Tony Pierce was my recruiter, and then Coach Holmes came down a couple of times and watched me practice, um, which was pretty awesome too. I mean, just thinking of who Coach Holmes was now, um, that he would come down and watch me practice. I was like, man, this is crazy. And so Yeah. So out of those, the real reason why I chose West Virginia is because I had so many people from my high school, which you alluded to, that went to where we had a pipeline. So Casey Schiller was there.
Yeah.
I actually went with Ken Sandor.
Yeah.
Brian Pucanis was there.
Yeah.
Kevin Landault was there.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so and then I think it was about 5 of us at that time.
Hey, Avon, what was Tommy Madera's name is in my head. What was Tommy Madera's involvement at Holy Cross?
He was actually the head coach.
Okay.
He
Okay.
so he coached at WVU. He was I think he was a
Yeah.
GA
Yeah, exactly
for
right.
for Don Neal.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Exactly. Tommy Madera was here, and I
Excuse
knew
me.
there was a relationship there. But you
That's
know
a good
what?
pipeline. There's some guys right
You
there. There's
just
some players.
yeah. You just kind of like made me just like go, oh yeah, because I was thinking, you think to
Buchanan,
Landault.
Yeah.
And Kevin Landault played in the league.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
Yeah,
let me
and
ask you
I
this.
think I'm
So
forgetting somebody else.
what was it when you came here? You said when you were still young, sophomore, you come here and you visit. What was it when you came into Morgantown, when you came into the stadium that you went like, yeah, because obviously it's extremely different culturally in regard to just the geographic, the topography, the way that it looks from where, you had been raised. What was it that in your heart you went like, I like this? What was it?
I mean, to be honest with you, to completely honest, I was like, I wanted to be like Amos.
Okay.
I was like, I want to be like, I want to, if he can do it, I want to do it like him. And that was like one of the biggest reasons. I'm like, man, that's awesome. And he was from up the way where I'm from. He's from New York, but
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, man, I want to do what this guy did. This, that to me, he was like great.
Was that part of the
So
pitch, Ama or Avon? Did they say that to you? They say, "Hey, come here. Look what we're doing with this guy right now. We'll plug you right in."
no, the pitch was, I just wanted to be like that guy. Like I've never seen anybody that big. That he wasn't short, but he was a small little guy, and I'm like, I can do that. Like
Yeah.
I can do it. I mean, he just gave me hope that I can do it. And I'm like, because he wasn't 6'5". He was probably the most muscular human being I've seen
Yeah.
in my life. But I mean, he just gave me hope. Like I'm like, well, if he can do it, I mean, I can do it too.
Yeah.
So, and the location. I mean, it's a 4-hour drive from my house. My family can come and watch me play. And I mean, everybody was just, I mean, it was just hospitable. I just was like, this is going to be it. Like, and it's funny. So, because before that, I had Notre Dame, I had Tennessee. Tennessee had offered me a scholarship. I had no idea what Tennessee or who Tennessee was. I just knew Peyton Manning. I didn't know it was SEC like that I know now. I mean, probably at that time, it was probably the best decision I made because they wanted to move me to receiver. I mean, to DB. But the same year I came out, Jamal Lewis came out, and I mean he's probably a Hall of Famer in the NFL. So, and again, I don't think I wouldn't have if they gave me an opportunity to compete. God always shows up in my life to allow me to get into situations. I'm not saying he would have got hurt because God did it, but I think I would have been able to do what I needed to do to have success.
But those guys,
Wherever I was
that
at.
was pre-knee injury, Notre Dame, Tennessee, and those
Yes.
schools peeled off once you had the injury.
Absolutely. Yep.
What was West Virginia's message at that time? Because West Virginia through the years has always been really good when someone has something go awry in their plans before they get here. Like, hey, we're cool. You just take care of your business. You've got a scholarship here.
Because they thought they stole Avon there.
Yes, they did.
Right? They knew they wouldn't have got you if you don't have that injury.
So who was loving you up there saying, hang tight, we're still going to go with you even though you've got the knee?
Tony Pierce, he called me all the time. Like he called me all the time, and I was, for me, I didn't know like what they were telling me, because I mean the other schools are like, yeah, you're good, you're good, you're good. Well, then once Notre Dame and Tennessee dropped out, I was like, hold on, like, and I still didn't know who Tennessee was, to be honest with you. I'm like, whatever, you know what I mean? And they won an extra championship 2 years later. So, I was like, man, I don't know what's going on. And Tony Pierce was like, you'll be fine. We'll stick with you. And it came down to like my coach. Like I guess the signing day, Coach Neal, I mean Coach Madeira called Coach Neal and said, look, you have to take this guy. And I don't think it was in my, like, the way he was telling me, it was like, look, you either go with West Virginia now, or you won't get this opportunity again. And it was one of those fear of loss things. Like, I don't know if I'd be able to. I didn't know what was happening. There was a couple schools calling, but there was nobody like. And maybe it was, but Coach Nealon was. I mean, Coach Madeira was the one that was kind of heading the ship once I tore my ACL. So it was like he in his mind was like, you're going to West Virginia. Like, so I guess when he said, like, in his mind I was going there, that's probably where I was going, because once the control was out of my hands, like, I felt like I lost control once I tore my ACL.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know, he, like, everything was still on the hook, but I didn't know what was on the hook because I wasn't getting the information. Coach Madeira was getting the information, and he was relaying it to me. And he was like, look, this is the best option for you. You should go with these guys. I mean, you got so many people from our school. They're going to take care of you. I was like, cool. And
Great
Ken
advice,
Sandor,
huh?
it was like,
Great advice.
yeah, I mean, great advice. I mean, it was probably the best advice I've gotten, sports wise, in my life. That he was like, this would be the best option for you. And it was like, you and Ken Sandor can go as a package deal. And I'm like, I mean, in my opinion, I'm like, I was Ken was my way in. I mean, I didn't know what was going on, to be honest with you. I was just like, yes, let me get that. I'm going. And I had no idea that I would ever even play at West Virginia. I just knew, like, I was going. I had this big old knee brace. And I mean, it was so demoralizing because I had a knee brace. I barely worked out at all. And we all know who Antonio Brown is. Our Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wasn't. He
Not
wasn't.
the Steelers, Antonio
he
Brown.
wasn't. He wasn't
No.
too fast, was he? He wasn't too fast, was he?
I mean, he was the fastest human being I've ever seen. And don't get me wrong, I was fast, but demoralizing in the sense of, our training camp. They're like, okay, run down there and kind of square him up on punt team. So he's catching punts, and we're running down there trying to touch this guy. I mean, trying to touch him, and I mean, this guy he wasn't even running, and nobody could touch him.
Yeah.
I'm like,
He had a little wiggle too. He was slippery.
Oh.
I'm never going to play here. Like, if this guy is, I'm never going to play here. This guy is the fastest human being ever. Like, I'm like, why can't I touch him? Like, in my mind, I'm like, why can't I do this? Like,
That's
I've
the
never
same.
had.
Hey, that's the same thing that the DBs at Ole Miss were saying in that Music City Bowl.
Absolutely. Like, why can I not touch this guy? Because he runs a 4.1. Like, it's ridiculous. And I mean, they didn't tell us that. They're like, run down there and try to, square him up for the punt. I'm like, okay, cool. All right, hey, Cobourne, you're up. I'm running down there. This guy catches it and just takes off. I'm like, I run back like, man, is he like, am I that slow? Or is he just that fast? I was like, there's a little bit of both. It's a little bit. I mean, I had this big knee brace on. They're like, that cat is. I mean, and you hear the coaches like, oh my goodness, like, because I mean, it wasn't too many slow people out there,
Yeah.
but this cat was like a whole nother level. So when I got to training camp, I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna ever play here.
How difficult was the sit-out season for you in coming back from the knee? Was that painful? Not the physical pain, but was that emotionally hard?
You know what? It wasn't, and the reason why it wasn't is Amos was, he was a starter. In my mind, I couldn't beat him out. So once I thought about it, I mean, once I was like, man, look, Amos is the guy. I mean, I enjoy watching him. I enjoy learning from him. I enjoy, doing what he was, watching what he was doing. So it wasn't as painful. The rehab was probably more painful than just sitting out watching it because, I enjoy watching Amos. I enjoy learning from him. So, if it was somebody else, it would have been extremely painful. Regardless of.
Yeah. It sounds as though he was cool with you right from the beginning. You guys got along well.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't that. It wasn't that we got along or we didn't. I mean, Amos was like, it was like a different level. You know what I mean? And and it's funny because people looked at me the same way, and I was like, I'm just a regular guy, and he was like, I'm just a regular guy, like. But at the same time, it was like he was on another level than me. I'm a freshman, he's a star, and I'm like, if I can be in his presence and do some of the things that he did, I'd be happy. Um, it wasn't like he wasn't cool with me, but I mean, I was trying my best to be cool with him.
I can understand as a freshman coming in, looking at him and going like, you mentioned Antonio Brown being fast. I would imagine first time in the weight room when all the running backs get together and he gets on that bench and you look at him and go like, what am I supposed to do with this?
Or he makes a
Like-
cut.
Or
As
he
he
makes-
goes 3 yards through the line of scrimmage, he breaks right and goes for 72 on you.
Yeah. I mean, just like, what?
Insane.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. Like, I mean, so out of all the, we gauged ourselves off of Amos, and it was a bunch of us. So Lou Daniels, Brandon Goins, and I mean, I think that was the two freshmen that came in. Me, Lou, and it might have been another one, but I don't remember that person. So me, Lou, and BG, and we were like, okay, out of all the running backs, I'm like, I got the biggest arms. You know what I mean? My arms, mine's are the closest to Amos, so I mean, I'm gonna get the nod. You know what I mean? So, and that's kind of, and we gaze ourselves off of that. Like, how big are your arms? Look at this cut. Like, look how he got skinny. Like, we would really like study this guy. Like, he was probably the best running back in the country at the time.
Yeah, he was.
Agree. All right, so fast forward. Let's skip through the 98 season. You sit out, you rehab, you get stronger, you learn the system, you understand what football's about. You bump up in 99, and you're right out of the gate here. This is what I find fascinating. You're out of the gate, game one against East Carolina. If I'm not mistaken, that was in Charlotte, right, in 99.
Yep.
You come out, 82 yards rushing, nice opening game, but you had 25 carries in that game, so they didn't ease you in. They just said, here's the ball, let's go. 25 carries, game one.
Yeah, it was funny. It was funny because I had no idea what to expect. You practice, but practice is nothing like the game. Like and just my naivety, whatever that word is,
Naivete?
being naivete. Just thinking about getting into the game, like, oh, it's just gonna be another game for me. And I'm surprised I didn't go to the bathroom in my pants thinking about it now. Like, I'm like, all these people, and I'm playing with Mark Bolger.
Pro
like,
stadium, right? You're in an NFL
pro
stadium.
I mean, it's crazy because that is my first and last game I played in that stadium. The first game I played and the last game I played was actually in that stadium.
Oh, wow, that's wild.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
So I mean, getting into it, I was like, I was like, I just want to, I just want to be able to do what I'm supposed to do. Remember my plays. I was out there like just tired, cotton mouth, like I don't even know how I'm gonna get this done. Oh, so the other running back that was in the room with us was Cooper Rigo, who was a Blazer.
Transfer.
Notre Dame
Blazer.
transfer.
Notre Dame transfer.
Let me ask you this. You said there's a world of difference between practice and game. Walk us through that. What changes?
So the biggest difference for me is that you can get hit and tackled and I would say the biggest thing is that the quarterback, like, you got to make sure that the quarterback doesn't get hit. Like, running the football, that's easy. That's what I've been doing all my life. It's really making sure that the quarterback don't get hurt. Like, I don't want to be responsible for getting the quarterback hurt, which I actually was.
He did.
He hurt his hand.
He
in
hurt
that
his
game.
hand, right?
Which was my fault. Like, maybe not his hand, but his knee. I think he hurt his knee. He didn't hurt his hand until later in the year.
Well, you did. I thought he
hit a helmet.
Hit a helmet. Didn't he bust up a finger when he hit a helmet on a East Carolina?
That was the day, the game before Virginia Tech. He had hurt his knee in the East Carolina game.
Okay, you would remember. I always thought Charlotte for Bulger
hit
was
a helmet with his hand.
Helmet with a hand. But anyway, go ahead. Yeah, I get you.
You might be right. I know he did both. I know he did. The helmet wasn't me. I know the knee was me. Like, somebody rolled. I cut, and the guy jumped over me and rolled into Bulger's knee, and I was like, oh my goodness, our season is done. What are we gonna do? But that's the toughest thing for me, is to making sure that the quarterback can do what he needs to do. I mean, it just goes up a notch because now it's like they're really trying to hit your quarterback. In practice, they go and you thud and they
Mhm.
kind of go their separate ways. It's like they're really trying to get to your quarterback, and it takes you a minute to realize that this is for real. Like they're really trying to get to your quarterback. So you have to understand that. And I didn't. I was a freshman. I was a naive freshman that thought, I'm just playing in the game and that's it. I was like, oh my goodness, they're really trying to hit my quarterback. Like it's crazy. Okay. I got really scared at that point and I just really focused on what I needed to do to block.
You
It was crazy.
you mentioned a couple of coaches coming up that you lived with, and then Tommy Madera, and you mentioned Tony Pierce and Jerry Holmes. Don Nealon is the head coach when you get
Hmm.
here. I would assume that you had not experienced anyone like him in the coaching ranks because he was not that traditional Northeast corridor kind of rough and tumble. He's a Midwestern guy, elder statesman at that time. He had just great experience. What was your take early on of Coach Nealon?
I mean, Coach Nealon was just so calm. Like he was just so calm. He didn't really get excited about too much. Which is not like you said, it's not Northeastern. Like, those coaches are in your face, grabbing your face mask. You know, it he was just calm. Like he was like, Avon, you're gonna do fine. I'm like, okay. I mean, he put me at ease. Like he just put me at ease. He was like, you'll be fine. I mean, we chose you. You're gonna do well. So don't worry about anything. You'll be fine. Um, and you one of the stories that you guys didn't know before then was I was like number two, and there was a guy named Alvin Swoop that
Oh
was
yeah,
there,
Yeah,
I remember
remember
Elvin.
him?
and
I
Yep.
remember Elvin.
and I mean I don't know what happened, but I got a call and they said, Avon, you're gonna be our guy. I was like, okay. He was like, you don't have to worry about looking over your shoulder. All the work you put in camp, you're gonna be the guy. And I mean, it was just to me, it was insane that I went from, Alvin was gonna be the guy, and then they said, okay, no, you're gonna be the guy. I was like, because I mean, it's pecking order. I mean, he's been there longer, and I just thought, okay, I'm eventually gonna beat him out. I just didn't know it would be, right then.
And Avon, it wasn't only you beat him out. I mean, you start to go through your numbers that first year, especially as you get into Big East play in October. You went 25 carries, 29 carries, 22, 27, 21, and then finished up with 26 for 210 and 3 touchdowns against Pitt. So it wasn't like you were just the starter. You were the workhorse there in year one.
Yeah, I mean, and it was great though. It was great because when I came from high school, the most carries I ever had in high school was like 22. We
Really?
we
Oh
I mean
So
wow.
you
we
were carrying it more at West Virginia than you even did in high school.
yeah, yeah, because I mean we had a prolific offense. I mean, we were fighting for the ball because every time we touched the ball, we scored. Our offense was prolific in high school. I mean, our quarterback threw for like 3,000, 4,000 yards. We had a receiver that had like 12 to 1,300 yards receiving, and then I had like 700 yards receiving and 1,400 yards rushing. So every time we touched the ball, we would score. Like we scored a lot. Like it was like, okay, who yeah, we and they say, look, the most carries you're probably gonna get in the game is about 15. The most I had was my senior year. I had the first game, I think I had like 22, 23 carries in that game. So this was like all new to me. I mean, I was so sore from the games. I was like, oh my goodness, I am dying. I've never been this sore before in my life.
And
That's
yet
when I got, that hot tub, that cold tub is, came my buddy after that.
And yet, if we've talked many times about you on our show and just in general, and I think one of the greatest things that you brought to the table was that durability. I mean, you would get those 25 carries for 4 straight years and seemingly, all right, well, you need something, give it to Avon, let him go get the yards. So that's interesting to hear that you weren't a workhorse in high school, but yet that's what I remember about you at your time at WVU.
Yeah, I mean, it was great though. I mean, I loved it. I mean, and then you go from there, and then you go to the CFL in Canada, and you get the ball. If you get the ball 10 times a game, you guys are winning because you're going to get it in the fourth quarter. You're going to get your other 10 carries in the fourth quarter. Um, I mean, it was frustrating. It was super frustrating then. But it was great for me because I got into a groove. Okay, I know I'm gonna get 25, so let me get in the groove of the game. And I love the fact that like now these backs, I feel bad for them because they don't get a chance. Like I guess if you don't get going early, you're not gonna get back in the game.
Yeah, you're right.
And
You're right. You're absolutely right.
so I don't know how they do it. I mean, I'm so happy I didn't have to go through that because it would have been frustrating for me. I'm like, man, like I'm so used to getting 25 carries. Now they're splitting it between 3 or 4 different backs. I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
feel bad for these
It's kind of
guys.
like the old days where the baseball pitcher would go out there, he'd get the start, and he'd throw like a full game or a complete game or an 8-inning performance. Now, like in baseball,
Just get to the 6th.
they did, but now similar in football. You're like, yeah, okay, we're going to give you this. Avon, you carried the ball 1,050 times. 1,050 times they handed you the ball.
250 odd more times than number 2 in WVU history.
You ran for over 1,000 yards 4 straight seasons. Here's your career: 1,138, 1,018, 1,298. Your senior year, 1,710 yards and 17 touchdowns.
Now Rich will call your number a couple times in a row. We got to talk about the coaching change with him.
I want to
Yeah,
get into
go.
that right now. So let's jump in. Let's go coaching change. So you redshirt 98, you play 99. Coach Nealon transitions that 2000 season, and here comes this guy, Rich Rodriguez. So I'm interested to know, if you didn't know anything about West Virginia when you were in high school, what, if anything, had you known about Rich Rodriguez?
I didn't know anything until he came. I mean, I knew he was at Clemson. I knew he liked to run the football. I was excited. Like I kind of seen the. I mean, you get nervous early because there's spread offense, and when you hear spread, you hear throw. But the philosophy that he had was we're gonna run it to throw it instead of throw it to run it. And I don't think very many of our receivers kind of grasp that concept. But when I saw this running back is getting 25, 26, 30 carries, I mean, because they're spreading people out.
Yeah.
I was excited about that. I was like, and it was like a new beginning for me. It was like, okay, I get to start over again.
Yeah.
Like these guys don't know me. I don't know them. And it's just now it gives me a fresh start so now I gotta go and put in work to kind of win my spot back again.
I mentioned to you earlier that there was a huge cultural change coming from Jersey to West Virginia. Now another massive cultural change takes place. Don Nealon leaves, that staff leaves, in comes Rich along with a group of highly animated coaches. I would love to get your initial reactions to the first time you guys went out onto the field, spring practice number 1 for Rich and for you. I was there. I remember it was like someone turned a different switch on. What were your recollections of that?
I mean, it was insane. We never heard someone yell as much as we heard Rich Rod yell. I mean, that to me was like, I mean, you come from a 20-year vet who's not going to say much. I mean, because again, if you don't do what's right, you're just not going to play. Like, period. And then you get a guy that is, starting out the most animated person I think he had that Northeast attitude, but times like 15. Because it was crazy how loud it was out there. Like it was no music. It was just coaches yelling, "Get to the ball!" Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, what? I mean, it was totally. And for me having 3 years of coach, it was. I'm talking about Coach Nealon.
Yeah.
I had 3 years of coach, and my first year I didn't really interact with him at all because I was a freshman, and I was scout team. I didn't, I wasn't involved. My second year, I kind of played, so I was around what he was doing a lot more. And then my third year, he was on relax mode, chilling. I mean, not really because we didn't know he was gonna retire. But when Rich Rod came in, it was insane. It was
Yeah.
like, megaphones. Like, what in the world is like? How do you go from that to this? And I'm like, I don't know, man. But one thing I did know is that he was going to run the football. So I was like, okay, like let's go, let's go. And that was one of the things that I think I did well from all of my childhood growing up. I was able to adjust to a lot of different things. Change was easy for me because I've been doing it all my life. So when new change came in, it just made it easier for me to kind of work because I'm like, okay, they don't know me now. I just got to go back to work now. I got to get them to like my game.
That's interesting because if you talk to people that you played with at that time, teammates, they talk about your buy-in early, that you were one of the catalysts for that instead of resisting the change, that you bought in right away. And again, I realize some of that can be attributed to style of play and that you're going to get the ball a lot, but that's what people talk about, that you bought in and you helped kind of lead that group forward to, this is different, but this is where we are now.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that a lot of, and I hated Rich Rod for that. I hated him because that year, a lot of the players the players that I played with were seniors, and those are the guys that I played with. So, and they didn't buy in, and Rich Rod didn't do a good enough job, in my opinion, of conforming to their style. He was
Mhm.
he had a square peg and he was gonna put it through. He was gonna make a square peg out of that round hole, regardless. I mean, he didn't care at all. Like, this is what he did, and I mean, I loved him for it as well because he stuck to his guns and said, "Look, I don't care. This is the type of players I'm looking for. You're not gonna play if you're not that type of player." But again, on the other side of it, I'm like, Coach, these guys. I mean, we just won a bowl game the year before. Like, we should be a lot better. We got experience.
Yeah.
And he was like, it's square peg round hole. Like, we're gonna make it work my way or it's not gonna work.
Yeah.
So that's the short-term pain, right, to get to some long-term gain, which ultimately happens.
Absolutely.
It's a great point, Avon. It's a fundamental question that coaches have to deal with when they take over a program. So in Rich's case, he inherits Brad Lewis as the quarterback. Brad was better suited to, in a pro-style offense, drop back and throw the ball.
Right.
Brad was not going to be what Rashid and Pat White eventually became, which were those perimeter attacking running quarterbacks. And Rich certainly could have had Brad play like Rich played at Glenville, where he just constantly threw it. But as you said, you guys in your first year paid the price to be the guys that forged into the power spread. And then obviously when Brad leaves and those seniors leave, then he gets his personnel in and off you guys go. So that, you're right. It's an interesting thing. Some coaches.
Well, an opposite, sorry to interrupt here, but opposite of what Bob Huggins did
Exactly
when
right.
he walked in. He said, all right, I have a system, but you guys don't fit necessarily what I want to do. How can I make you mesh with what I want to do? And they had success too. So two different ways to have
you're
success.
right. No, you're absolutely. I'd love to talk more really with Rich and say, like, if you had to do that over again, would you have said, okay, for 1 year I'm going to shelve what it is that I want to do just to win games, and then next year in spring we're going to go and put the thing. And Rich might say, hey, if I did that, I would have been behind and I couldn't have been able to get to a bowl my second year if I had done that. That's interesting.
Yeah. I think his. I don't always agree. I didn't always agree with what he said and what he did. But hindsight looking, he had a vision. And I bought into the vision. I said, look, this guy is having success. I'm gonna buy into it. And I mean, we had many team meetings saying, look, man, I know you guys aren't liking this guy because of the way he treats you, because it's so hard for players that. I mean, think about it. Those players are there for 4 and 5 years with Coach Nealon.
Yep.
The demeanor is totally changed, and now they want us to do something totally different, and it was just like they couldn't do it. They couldn't, and they didn't want to, and that hurt them. That hurt them in the long run.
Yeah.
You know, you had over 600 carries under Rich in the 2 years. You had 335 of them your senior year. But do you ever look back and feel like Rashid stole carries from you? Do you ever tell him that he ran it too much?
No, you know what? I actually told him that I was so tired half of those games. I'm like, bro, just pull it, just pull it, please, just pull it. Like, I mean, he was wearing me out. I'm like, just pull it, she, just pull it. Like, I'm tired. Or I mean, Quincy at the same time, like, you know, at Rip Max, we going Xerox, or when I hear the play come in, I just move to the side where I can block, and I know I don't have to go run. Like, I mean, I probably would have had another 150 yards if I would have took every carry, or
Yeah.
I was so tired. You know,
Dude, by
half
the time you got to mid-October, you had 4 straight games of 30 carries that senior year.
I know. That's what I was gonna say. I had like 4 games with 330 carries.
Yes, you did.
I'm
4 in a
like,
row.
boss,
Cincinnati, East Carolina, Maryland, and Rutgers, exactly 30 carries, 4 straight games.
And it's only mid-October.
Oh, dude. See, you don't see if that would be a massive story nowadays. If a kid ran the ball 30 times, like people would write second stories to the game story, going like, can you believe that Avon Cobourne ran the ball 30 times on Saturday? And you know, hey, let me ask you this: you mentioned Rashid. Isn't it a shame how he's let his body go after his playing days have been over?
It is ridiculous. I mean, he's just so out of shape.
It's just you can't even look at the guy. He's
Hate to see it. Hate to see it.
Yeah, he looks like he just.
I hate him.
Yeah.
And he gets on Facebook, and my wife sees that. I'm like, buddy, hold on. Like, it's my wife, man. Put some clothes on.
Put a shirt on, right? Enough of the
Put a
shirtless
shirt on.
pictures. I know.
Hey, when they came out with those
ridiculous.
new uniforms, and he walked out there during that spring game. I don't know if you were up for that or not. I mean,
was.
He was. I mean, you thought talk about a guy that was in his element, styling and profiling. Right?
Oh, he looked like he still can play. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, he really looked like it. Like, I was like, he was, and you was there, so you seen him.
Yeah.
He ran all the way down the field. Like,
He wasn't coming off that field, Avon.
at all.
He was
trying
not
to
coming
play.
off. Well, hey, you
He
guys,
was trying to
listen,
play.
I have no sympathy for you two. I have to sit next to him every Saturday during our broadcast. I'm there eating M&Ms and donuts and everything else that's in there. He's got chia seeds and sunflower seeds and 3 things of fruit.
Yeah, I know.
It's embarrassing.
Well, let me tell you, I would
is
say,
embarrassing.
hey, in your defense, Avon, I've seen you. I mean, let me tell you, you don't look like a bag of McDonald's. I mean, you look pretty
I mean-
doggone good too.
Maybe not McDonald's, but definitely not that. I'm like, he embarrasses me.
Well,
My wife is like, okay, what are we gonna do here? I'm like, what? Look, hold on. I got 4 kids. I have 4 babies. She's like, you didn't have 1 baby. Shut up.
Hey, so for those that don't know, you live in Charleston. Your wife is from Charleston, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So tell me about the kids. You mentioned 4 age groups from what to what. What's our oldest down to our youngest?
So our oldest, and I'm gonna give you the story on the name. So the oldest, his name is Avon Cobourne III. We call him Trey. He's 9 years old. The second one, or the second oldest, his name is Keon, and he is 7 years old. He's actually named after my wife. My wife's middle name is Kiana,
Okay.
so she named him Keon. And then the third child is my baby girl, my pride and joy. Her name is Nova, which is Avon spelled backwards. And then our baby we just had, to kind of wrap up the culmination of the Cobourne crew, his name is Avery. So his name is spelled A-V for Avon and R-E for Rebecca, which is my wife's name.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's really good creativity.
That's well done. How long did it take you to get to
Yeah,
that
see,
point? That was very well done.
I tell you what, I blew that aspect. I went Michael Andrew Matthew. Okay, you're done. You're in. You're out. I'm just standing.
Plus number 4. That's not hard to. By number 4, you're really thinking there. That's well done.
Yeah, like call him
Yeah,
Bob.
that's all
or
my
something
wife.
like that. Yeah.
That was my wife.
So-
I wanted to name him Rayvon. She was like, no.
So basically, things are exactly the way that you thought they were when you were a sophomore in high school. You live in West Virginia and you have 4 kids. That's exactly how you planned it out, right?
Oh, that is 100% the way I thought it was going to be. 100%.
You
Yeah,
know,
right.
You year 2. I want to talk about year 2. The transition happens after the 3-win season and Rich's first. You guys go bowling in your second season. What are your recollections of that team coming together? Why did it happen?
I mean, it came together in the off season. We were, I mean, we all talked about going to the bowl game. That's all we talked about. That's all we thought about. That's all we. I mean, we were from the end of that season was it '99. We just knew it. Like we were just a better team. We knew we were going to be good. We knew we were going to be like. I mean, we just knew it. Like we knew we were going to go to a bowl game.
Huh.
Um, it was just in our cards. Like we just had the personnel and the leadership in that team. That's where I learned most of my leadership from is from that year '99. Like looking at Anthony Beck and looking at um um you know uh quarterback Mark
Bolger.
Bolger.
Yep.
I mean, those guys really impressed upon me, how to work, you know, and obviously, the year before, we just knew like that year we knew we were going to be good. I mean, we had some tough loss in that year, but we knew we were going to be we knew we were going to a bowl. That wasn't an option for us. It was just how good were we going to be.
Who was the defensive player on your team that you didn't want to deal with that was a pain in your backside? You got Wiley running around out there. I mean, who did you like? Get away from me.
No, Wiley was cool. Like I mean, Wiley was a professional, so we he knew how to practice.
Okay.
Dirty was the guy. Dirty was. I mean, Dirty didn't know how to. He didn't know how to play. Like he
For those
he
that
know how
don't
to
know,
play.
well, for those that don't know, he's referring to James Dirty Davis. So he thought every day was game day.
Yeah, like he didn't know how to practice. Like and God rest his soul. Like I played more with Boo McLeod than anybody else.
Yeah.
And Boo was I mean he did not know how to practice at all. Like he would tackle. I mean from training camp to the last game of the season, he's tackling people.
Which he did in the Gator Bowl practice sessions with Rashid a few years later. Remember, Rashid
Right.
basically played with broken ribs that game
Yeah,
because
he did.
Boo got him a little bit there in practice.
Yeah, but Rich didn't mind. Yeah, Rich
Still
didn't
ran-
say,
still ran Rashid 25 times.
Rich didn't say anything to Boo, did he? Rich didn't say a
No,
word.
he
about it.
didn't. He's like he knows how to play. That's how we want to practice. I'm like, come on, coach, that's ridiculous. And it's funny because me and Coach McGee went at it a couple of times. I'm like, nobody tackles like this every practice. Like he's like, you go down to Florida State, that's what they're doing. I'm like, there's no way. Like nobody is tackling, week number 15 or whatever week, whatever the
Yeah.
week is. Like we don't do that. And he was like, yes, we do. And Boo was I hate it. He didn't know how to practice either.
Yeah. Did you guys lose your legs, leave your legs on the practice field going into the Tire Bowl, your last game, because you did hit too much?
No, you know what? That game was lost when they told us we wasn't going to the Gator Bowl.
Hmm.
That game was lost right then. And I take full responsibility of it because I'm like, man, I don't want to be here. And once you we went out and practiced, but it was more so. And Coach Trickett was like, man, you guys gonna get y'all butts kicked. You guys gonna get y'all butts kicked. And I was like, man, he was right. I mean,
Yeah.
it was funny because he was always on point. Like that week of the East Carolina game when I had like the 260, he was like, you're gonna have this is the way you need to practice every week. Like you're gonna have a great game. And he was on point. Going back to that Tire Bowl game, it was we thought we should have been in the Gator Bowl. We was number 2 in the Big East. Miami went to the national championship. So the number 2 team goes to, or the number 1 team goes to the Gator Bowl. And they chose Notre Dame over us.
Yeah.
Good point.
I remember.
And we lost that game right then.
Interesting.
Because I mean we played Pitt. I mean it was a great game. We won that game, and then they were like, "You're going to the Tire Bowl." Everybody was like, "What?"
Yeah, I remember. Rich
Oh.
Rich lost his mind on that one. National headlines about him ripping Notre Dame getting in there. And I remember. That's interesting. I always thought that you practiced so hard that you guys didn't have your legs, didn't have your juice.
Mm-mm. We just wasn't focused. It
Yeah.
was, and I hate to say that because I thought I was focused on every game. I mean, my mind was. I mean, obviously I was in it to play. I wanted to win, but we didn't focus the way that we prepared for Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
we didn't focus the same way because I mean we felt like we got gypped,
Yeah.
and it was like, man, okay, whatever.
Yeah, when we started, I said a lot of people don't give you the credit that you're due because you're the all-time leading rusher by so many yards. I don't know how they would give you that due. I don't know if we should have like once every 3 months, like have an Avon Cobourne day, but I don't know exactly what I'm expecting. But anyway, another thing that you don't get credit for, in just my opinion, one person's opinion, I mean, you had a hell of a professional career. You had a hell of a professional career, as Brad said earlier on. You're the MVP of the Grey Cup, which is the Canadian Football League, obviously, their equivalent of their Super Bowl. You're an all-pro in Canada. You had a couple 1,000-yard plus season. I mean, you had a hell of a career, man. A lot of guys in
Long career, too.
I mean, in basketball, guys that don't play in the NBA, they can go out and we talk a lot about their European careers and they play professionally wherever they may be overseas, whether it's China, Japan, Israel, wherever it might be. But football players, if they're not in the NFL, a lot of times they just kind of like out of sight, out of mind. And you instead, man, you had this amazingly productive career. You're a big deal in Canada, man.
Yeah, you know, I learned a lesson from when I left the Detroit Lions. So they want to bring me back my second year in the league, and I didn't want to go back because they just Kevin Jones was the guy,
Yeah.
and I'm like, you know, they're never gonna give me a chance to play, and not, you know, not being smart that everybody gets hurt, and you know, if I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, I would get my shot. But I learned my lesson from that, and I mean, nobody would ever know. I mean, the people up in Canada do, but I actually played linebacker my second year in the Canadian Football League. I was playing a will linebacker,
How about that?
190 pounds. And I did it because I was like, you know, that's what they asked me to do. I'm gonna be coachable. I'm gonna do what they asked me to do. I'm gonna play linebacker. So I started out. So they had 6 running backs in training camp. I moved to linebacker. By the end of the year, I finished the game in the playoff game at running back.
You talk
And then
about versatile, huh?
that next year, I won. I had 2 goals. My next year, that was in 2007. So in 2008, I had my only 2 goals were to win Grey Cup MVP and to be a starter. And before the season started, I beat. So Jared Payton was the guy.
Yeah.
And they gave it to him the year before. They gave it to him the year before. You know, they were gonna bring him up. He was, you know, Miami, you know, Hall of Fame dad and all this, that, and the third. And I'm like, y'all didn't even give me a chance to compete. They was like, the only way you can win this is if that guy gets hurt. I was like, so it was like you either gonna play linebacker, because I was a beast on special teams the year prior. So I led the team in tackles the year prior in special teams, and I was on punt return. I was the returner. Kickoff return, I was a turner. Field goal and field goal return, I was a returner. So it was like I was going down making tackles, but then I would go back out there and return the punts and kicks too. So that next year, 2007, they were like, the only way you're gonna make the team is on defense. And I'm like, I've never played linebacker before in my life, like not even in high school.
How about
You know
that?
what I mean? So they were like, okay, you know. So I made the team. I didn't start, you know, and the guy that actually started over me was a guy named Diamond Ferry. And
I remember
you may
Diamond
know
from
him
Syracuse.
from Syracuse,
Yeah,
Syracuse guy. And I was pissed that he beat me out. Like I was pissed. Like, I mean, he played defense before, so I mean, but that wasn't. I'm like, I can't believe I lost like to something that really like that bothered me. But it was kind of a blessing in disguise because at the end of the year, I ended up playing running back. So like halfway through that season, 2007, I was like halfway. So our jerseys was white and maroon. So I would take my start out on defense, and then I would switch and put my white jersey on to finish practice, which is crazy.
It's
Then
so it's like that's high school stuff, and you're doing
Right,
it at a
that's
pro
how-
level.
Well,
At the pro level.
Hold on. You're doing that at the pro level after being a star in college. That let's not gloss over the mentality for him. He's on field goal return. First of all, how funny is that to hear field goal return? Different game in the CFL. That's a tough mindset switch right there.
But wait a second.
Yes,
Let's dissect this.
This is good stuff right here.
So let's walk this through. So here's a kid that's a running back in high school that blows out his knee, comes to West Virginia, goes through a coaching change, and leaves as the all-time leading rusher in school history. Goes to the NFL and is there for a couple of seasons. You mentioned Detroit. You also had a little dance there with Miami. Then makes the decision, no, I'm just going to go play in Canada. You get to Canada and you learn how professional football is. It's either you do this or you don't do this. Otherwise, you're out of here. And you go, okay, fine. You do all these special teams deals. You never played a snap of defense ever in college or in high school, but now you're going to play it professionally, and you're a Willie linebacker. You play Willie linebacker, and by the end of the season, you're going to be back to running back. Okay, let's do some stuff here. CFL All-Star 2009, CFL East All-Star 08, 09, 12, honors Grey Cup Most Valuable Player, 1,000-yard rushing seasons. See, that's what I was talking about, that a lot of people have no clue or idea what you did afterward. And I haven't even gotten into the fact that just several seasons you coached in the CFL. I've got a question for you. Bill Stewart coached in Canada before he came to WVU. Did you ever have conversation with him about the CFL? Did he ever take you once things got going at all?
No, you know what? He actually, that's the reason why I knew about the CFL, because he said, if things go sideways in the NFL and you want to go play up north, let me know. I got connections up there. And it's insane the way it happened, because I called Coach Stu and said, Coach Stu, I'm thinking about transitioning and I want to play in Canada. The very next, so it was like at 12, at 6 o'clock, Jim Pop calls me. He's like, hey, Avon, how you doing? I'm like, he's like, I think we want to bring you up to Montreal. I'm like, what? Where's Montreal? Like, so I don't know if he made the phone call or,
oh yeah.
I mean, it was just,
I'm sure he did. That's Stu.
Within a couple hours, I got a call from them and they said, we're going to bring you up to play.
Yeah,
that's Stu. He wasn't sitting on that note.
No,
right?
no.
Avon says he wants to go to Canada. He's calling Canada.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love Coach Stu too, man. You guys didn't know, I played special teams my senior year. I made them put me on special teams my senior year. I played punt return, and they said they didn't, Rich Rod was pissed. I'm like, Coach, if I go to the NFL, I might have to play special teams. I got to learn how to do it. So I played, and I actually blocked a punt too. I don't know if you guys remember that, but I blocked the punt.
Against who? Against who?
I can't remember.
Oh, we got to find. We got to find that. We got to look that.
Well, it's because the guy dropped it and I picked
it. You don't have to admit that. Take the block.
Let's just go with the block. So what was your relationship with Rich like?
Rich Rod, you talking about?
Yeah.
So I mean, it wasn't as cool as it is now. Like me and Coach Rod is a lot cooler now than we were but I mean, I could talk to him.
Yeah.
I could have a conversation. It was like, and I guess it was because we kind of started at the same time. I guess he was bigger than the program. It's funny, so many stories about Rich Rod. He always said nobody's bigger than the program, and then he had hotrod.com above his head. Like, nobody's bigger than the program. Hotrod.com. Okay, buddy.
Now hey, listen. This is a podcast here. There's no commercial break, so we're here for your stories. Go ahead and on. We're here for your stories now.
I mean, it was so, like, everybody, like the whole team, he would get up there and say, you guys are playing like you're Hollywood. Nobody's bigger than the program. And then, and one of the people that you probably need to get on the show who's probably didn't have a really good career is Tory J. Tory Johnson is he's got a memory like an elephant. He remembers everything. I mean, He knows everything. He reminded me of that. He was like, "You remember him talking about nobody's bringing the program, HotRod.com?" I'm like, "Wow, that's amazing. That is
Oh,
absolutely amazing." Like I'm telling you, that dude, he knows he has more stories than anybody else because he was like he's in the offensive line room and he's in his tight end room and he come with the running back sometimes with Coach McGee. So I mean, it was hilarious.
and
Like that dude
yet,
is
and yeah. So basically, what you've said is it was an uneasy transition, but at
yes,
the same time, you guys played hard, right? Rich came in and said, we're going to play like our hair is on fire. We're going to put a little more air in our helmets. We're going to put a little tape on.
Spot the ball, let's
Spot
play.
the ball. You guys did whatever way it took. You guys
yep,
played hard, right?
absolutely. I mean, it's awesome that how hard we played and we try to compare to the guys now. And I go on the field, I'm like, man, these guys are huge. Like, and I think to myself, how did I ever do that?
Yeah.
Like, how did I ever go out there and play at the level I played at with the size of these people? I'm like, oh my goodness, these people are huge. Like, they're so long right now. And I mean, in my opinion, I just think, the mentality has changed. And I'm like, man, these guys are soft. Like, so we had a West Virginia day where we had a lot of alumni come back onto a Zoom call.
Right.
And I mean, it was just, we had every era. We had Beasley on there, we had Logan on there. Amos didn't jump on, but then we had some years after us, the JT Thomas, and I'm like, after that year of JT, I'm like, they lost that hard edge. I just don't think I just don't think I just don't think they had it. Like they were
Well,
soft to me.
what happened, Avon, is the rules changed. The practice rules changed, and that changed the whole deal. I mean, I'll give you just a little bit of background. When Coach Nealon was first here, so let's go back in the 1980s, when they would practice in spring, they hit every single day. When they had
Mm,
two-a-days preseason, they hit twice a day. They hit.
right.
Like, no one even knew what a walkthrough was. Like, people wouldn't even mention a walkthrough. They hit. In spring
Right.
ball, they did goal line. Like, that's all they did, just inside run and goal line. So you're right. And then the rules, and I'm not saying the rule changes are bad. I'm just saying for safety reasons,
Right.
you know,
Yeah, it makes sense.
they
That makes
scale
sense. Yeah.
back because let me tell you something, man. At the end of two-a-days, when Coach Nealon was here, there were more players. The end of two-a-days, there were more players on the sideline watching than were out there. Guys were just riddled, and so in that way, it's become safer. But at the same time, as far as that edge, and you were allowed to hit more and more, but now that's totally you can't have two-a-days anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Not that it's
Yeah.
bad, but I'm just saying
That
that's
makes
why.
sense. That makes sense.
But
That makes sense.
But
Yeah.
I'm sure you saw that as well in the pro game, that it's a lot lighter in workouts and practice, but when it comes time to ball, that's your paycheck. You're either going to perform or not perform. That's the carrot that you have over your head in the pro game. You either play or you don't. If you don't perform, then you're just next guy out.
That
So,
is absolute truth. And I didn't understand it because you coming from hitting every day
yeah.
to people not hitting to people not really lifting. Like they didn't want you to lift like everything was like machines. They didn't want you to lift any free weights. They were like because it was maintained. They didn't want anybody to get hurt. But
Right.
I'm like, if you play like that, you're gonna get hurt. Like if you practice not to get hurt, you're gonna get hurt.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand it till 2008 in Canada where they we had a coach who's in the league and he's like we're not going to practice. The defense hated it because he'll get mad at them for not tackling in the games, but they're not tackling and wrapping up in practice. So they're like, how you getting mad at us? You telling us not to bat the ball down, not to do this, not and I understood it.
Yeah.
What you just said, I didn't understand it my first year in the league. I'm
Yeah.
like, man, they soft. Like we gonna lose. Like they just soft.
It's
But
survival. It's survival. In the pro
yeah,
game, it's survival. They want to just keep the bodies fresh to play in the game.
And you
then
don't have numbers
that's
either,
it.
right?
Right.
The rosters aren't
Yeah,
as big either. So
Exactly.
you got to watch that.
Exactly.
absolutely. Yep.
You spent 3 seasons coaching. Did you enjoy coaching?
I did not enjoy it at all.
Huh. Interesting.
I mean, and I went into it with a negative mindset as well, because I knew the hours, and for me, I'm a family guy. I don't like to spend time away from my family. Um, but my wife, on the other hand, she relished in that environment. She was like, "I'm bringing the kids up every day. You don't have to worry about, you spend as much time as you want." I'm like, I just want to be home with my babies. Like, I don't want to. I don't want to. And again, it was a lot of personalities too that I didn't mesh with, because being a professional, being a pro player, then going to pro coaching, there's some egos with
Sure.
coaches, like, oh, you don't know, you're a coach. I mean, you're a player. You got a player's mentality, which is good and bad. I mean, it's good and bad. They're right in some aspects of it, but I mean, they're absolutely wrong in it, because they have the ones that I coach with. The head coaches were always good. They were both defensive head coaches, and I just meshed well with that mentality. But the offensive coaches that I just couldn't mesh with them, because one, they were cussing, and that's just not my personality. Like, once I started playing, I hated having coaches, like, and Rich Rod kind of started that. Like, I hated having coaches cussing me, because it's demeaning. And I'm like, to me, no coach should actually, talk to a player like that. And that's the mentality that these coaches had. And I'm like, they're men.
Yeah.
They're men. Like, you need to talk to them, how you want to be talked to. And I just, that for me, just kind of, I was trying to find a way out,
Sure.
to be honest with you. And
Understand.
I mean, it was just something that I knew. I mean, I knew football. I know football. It was easy for me to do. I mean, I was good at it. I was really good at it. It was just the fact that I just couldn't vibe with the coaches. Like, I mean, I can mess with anybody, but secretly inside my heart, I'm like, this is killing me. Like, I just I need to get away. Like, I need to get away.
Makes sense. As we wind this down and close it out, so as I said earlier on, you live in Charleston. You've got beautiful 4 kids, married, happy. What are you doing work-wise, business-wise?
So I am, I'm in a mortgage company. I have Gateway Mortgage is the company I work with. And I mean, it's kind of my speed. Like, it's all ever changing. It's like football. Whatever you don't kill, you don't eat.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which is, it keeps me on my toes. It keeps me moving. It keeps me motivated. Um, and I'm working with a great group. I mean, we got a good team. I mean, they get after it. And the goals that's put out there are it relates to football for me. And I mean, I work all the time. My wife hates it. Like, she hates the fact that this coronavirus happened, because when I'm working from home, I work more than when I'm, like, right now I'm at the office. If I go home and work, I'll work to probably 10, 11 o'clock at night. But when I
Mm-hmm.
when I leave here, I'm shutting it down. Like, I might get a call or two, but I'm not gonna do anymore. Like, once I get home, it's family time. But when I'm home all day, it's like family time. My daughter comes in and, like, can you take me to the bathroom? I'm like, well, we got 3 bathrooms upstairs. Why don't you come downstairs, baby girl? Because I want you to do it. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, jeez.
Isn't it
So
wild?
so yeah.
It's wild. Listen, how about this, Avon? So we started this off by you saying that you had to, at a time in high school, live in a shelter.
Mhm.
And now through football, through West Virginia, and then the Canadian League, now you're putting people into houses.
That's crazy, huh?
Isn't that
Wow,
wild?
I didn't even think about that, Tony. That's awesome.
That is wild, isn't it,
That's
man?
awesome.
And then to me, so a lot of times, as you well know, college athletes, student athletes are criticized when they do stupid stuff, and that's what makes the news. But
Hmm.
there's so many of you stories than there are the kids that go off the beaten path and do stuff that's really bad. Like, we had Brian King on, and Ryan's in the real estate world now, and right, married and doing well, and
Hmm.
everything's good. And all you guys, and Jake Kelchner, I mean, he's got 2 businesses in Ohio, and these guys, we just keep adding these guys up.
Brian Joe's doing all he's done for Children's
Coaching
Hospital.
kids and the whole thing. There's just so many of those stories that are out there, and yet, I'm not saying it gets a bad rap, but let's face it, in news, a dog biting a man doesn't get the attention, but when a man bites a dog, that does get the headline. And,
Yeah.
and a lot of times we
Right.
focus on that aspect instead of seeing that this system does work. Here's your story. where someone took a chance on you, let them live with you. You lived with them in high school, gave you an opportunity. You took advantage of the opportunity. Tommy Madera says, go to West Virginia. West Virginia takes care of you. You do all of your work. You're productive. You go into the Canadian League, da-da-da. That's a full day, man. That's a beautiful story. That's how it's supposed to work, and it works, man, right?
Yeah, man. I serve an awesome God, man, and there were so many different ways and things that just having faith in Him allowed me to be where I am today. Because I mean, again, I shouldn't, statistically, the average, from all of my friends, I mean, 100% of my friends besides me have been incarcerated. 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I shouldn't be where I am today. And again, I went from living in a shelter to helping people get houses now. I mean, it's great, man. I just give all praises to my Lord and Savior, because I mean, without Him, things wouldn't be the way that they are. It's just, I mean, I just thank God every day. I swear, Tony, I did not think I was going to live past 25. I didn't.
Wow.
And I mean, this is, 13, 14, 15 years old. I'm like, if I live past 25, I'm going to be great. And then 25 hits, I go to Vegas for my birthday. You know what I mean? I'm like, kid from Camden, New Jersey, going to Vegas. And then I'm 41 now. I'm like, it's a plus. Like, I'm living a life right now. Like, it's nothing. I mean, there's nothing anybody can do or say to me that can turn what I'm doing away from. I'm blessed, man. I got a good group of people around me.
So let's go down that road then. So where did that spiritual relationship begin? Who turned you on to that?
I mean, I had two praying grandmas. I mean, my mom, she was in the church, but she wasn't really in the church. But I had two praying grandmas, and I had a praying aunt that just prayed over me so much, man. They prayed over me so much that, even when I didn't think I was being prayed for, I was being prayed for.
Yeah.
And it was all one of those things in college, man. Those people, they would go to Bible study, and I'm like, I don't know the Bible like these guys, but I do have faith that, I'm going to be in a situation where I'm always going to be winning. And I guess, what you think about is what you bring about. And, I just have faith that God was going to always put me in a situation. And the beautiful thing is when you find a bride that is, faith driven. And, my wife, she told me, and it's funny, I met her at WVU, and she said that, her mom really required, her husband to have two things, one, to be a good man, and to be saved. And I mean, I already knew I was a good man, but I was like, okay, well, I need to go get saved. And I did. And it's just been, I mean, it's always been in me, but, when you find a good woman that, she didn't tell me to go do it. She just said what her standards was. And I said, well, yeah, I'm a goal oriented person. Let me go ahead and achieve that goal and get saved. And that was the best thing I've ever did.
So you did that in Morgantown?
No, I didn't get saved. I didn't get saved until in 2004.
2004.
I didn't get saved to 2004. So
okay.
I was 2 years out of Morgantown.
Gotcha.
But I met my wife in Morgantown.
Planted the seed. She planted the
Yes,
seed.
she did.
Yeah.
All right, I know we got to let him go here. We've kept him for a while.
I mean, he's probably lost 5 mortgages since he's been doing this.
We're taking business with here.
Yeah.
Hey, Avon, I texted while we were talking. I texted Rashid just to say we were giving him some love here. We're talking on the broadcast. He texts me back and says, I'm reading it directly. You ready? This is Rashid to me to tell Avon, don't let Avon say that I kept the ball too much on the zone read. I said you were very gracious that you told him to keep it. So.
Yeah, you know what? He did at times. I mean, and it's funny because when he did it when he wasn't supposed to, and he got hit, I gave him that look like that's what you get. Like that's what you get. Like give the ball. Like sometimes he did keep it. When I wasn't tired, I'm like, bro, give me the rock, man. But there were times I said, please take it.
Oh, it's too good. It's too good. All right, man. Listen. we've taken too much of your time. We hope that you've enjoyed it as much as we've enjoyed it. It's good hearing your voice when this crazy virus thing finally clears. We look forward to seeing you again and keeping up with you. So again, man, thanks so much for your time. We do appreciate it. The all-time leading rusher in WVU football history, Avon Cobourne, our 216th episode. Thanks, man.
I appreciate you. Thank you for having me, guys.
All right, buddy. You take care. There he is. Huh?
Great.
How good was that?
That was fun.
You know, when we do these, you just never know what stories that you're going to get into that you haven't heard. And do you think we got about 12 of them there?
Isn't that what's amazing? I mean, we've known Avon for 2 decades now. Thought you've heard all the stories. He gave us some new ones. That was fun.
Unbelievable. Thanks so much to you for listening. Share it if you would. And special thank you to our sponsor, Burdett Camping Center. They are the only RV warranty forever provider in the state of West Virginia. Serving Mountaineer fans. You know where they serve Mountaineer fans? From Weirton to Welch, Martinsburg to Matewan, and all points in between. Check them out on their website at burdettcamping.com. They've got unbelievable selection. And just tell them you're a Three Guys listener. They do special things when you say you're a Three Guys listener. You go in and go like, psst, 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 like it's Phil or
it's like
one
a
of,
secret menu.
You just go like, by the way, Three Guys listener. Then your world changes. Then your world just like it absolutely go, whoa! Bells go off. Stuff starts balloons.
Confetti.
You know, like when teams win like a championship, all that confetti flies. That's what you'll get when you go to Burdett Camping and you say you're a Three Guys listener. Just music, trumpets. BurdettCamping.com. All right, we're back again next week. Thank you all so very much. Special thank you to our producer, Daniel Woods. Episode 216, Three Guys Before the Game. Avon Cobourne edition over and out.